Morning America. President Trump doubles down on his attack on the media, tweeting this WWE clip. Outrage from members of his own party saying he's demeaning the office of the presidency. Others saying it could incite violence.
The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
As he keeps up the fight, the president calling himself modern-day presidential.
Weather alert, more than 200 severe storm reports from the plains to the northeast. 4 tornadoes touching down in Maine as 28 wildfires scorching the west right now. Evacuations happening in Arizona as triple-digit heat hits the southwest and more storms in the forecast.
Fiery escape. A passenger jet's engine catching fire moments after landing.
I got a CRJ on fire.
Flames shooting out of the plane's engine. Panicked passengers fleeing onto the tarmac. The investigation underway this morning.
And time for tennis. Wimbledon is underway right now. The top players out on the court and Princess Kate in the stands. Venus Williams playing her first match since that deadly car accident. The Grand Slams swinging our way into summer.
Live in Times Square, this is GMA with Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, and Michael Strahan.
Or it's just Amy and Dan. Good morning, America. Happy July 4th.
The disappointment in America as that shot came
we're
up.
We're so happy to have you here, Dan.
Thank you.
I'm happy to have you here. Let's take another look at that famous face, Princess Kate. She's greeting the ball boys there. We're going to have much more on her trip to Wimbledon later in the broadcast.
Meanwhile, let's take a look at what's happening in Washington. President Trump and the first family back from a weekend in Bedminster, New Jersey. On Sunday, the president spoke with the leaders of China and Japan about the ongoing tensions with North Korea. And this week, a big meeting. President Trump is going to meet for the first time with the Russian President Vladimir Putin at the G20 summit in Europe. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell responding now to the president's call for Obamacare to be repealed, even without a replacement health care deal in place. McConnell saying he will push forward with the current plan to repeal and replace simultaneously.
And we begin this morning with the president pouncing on the media. President Trump tweeting out this video over the weekend showing him in an old WWE clip. But in this version, you can see he is body slamming CNN. ABC's David Curley at the White House with much more on that. Good morning, David.
Morning, Amy. This morning, the president is being roundly criticized in a bipartisan matter for that tweet and the video, amping up his battle with the media. And all this going on as his Republican colleagues are trying to change health care and sell it back home.
The official presidential tweet is an old wrestling video takedown with businessman Trump, doctored with the CNN logo covering the face of his victim. One face of the media, pummeled in the world of fake wrestling. Outrage even from Republicans immediately.
The President of the United States is inciting violence against the free press.
But the president defended by his Homeland Security advisor, who saw this for the first time on This Week.
You're in charge of Homeland Security there.
Yep.
That seems like a threat.
Yeah, certainly not, though. I think that no one would perceive that as a threat. I hope they don't.
Elected Republicans quickly denouncing the president's attack on journalists and the First Amendment.
This is the 4th of July weekend. The Declaration of Independence is pretty dang clear about this.
It's ridiculous, right? Everybody's kind of flabbergasted, and, you know, he had to stop doing it.
But hours earlier, Mr. Trump, marking his first 4th of July as president, escalated his war of words about those who write about him.
The fake media tried to stop us from going to the White House, but I'm president and they're not.
The president in another tweet calling his comments modern-day presidential. This just the latest. Days ago, calling cable news host Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski crazy and dumb as a rock.
He has once again shown the world that he can be played. He can be tweaked.
CNN, the subject of the altered video, said in a statement the president is involved in, quote, juvenile behavior far below the dignity of his office.
The president remains in New Jersey this morning. He returns here to the White House this afternoon. He has not tweeted this morning. And Dan, as we mentioned earlier, a very big week. The president to travel to that big meeting to meet with Vladimir Putin.
So many people are going to be watching that very closely. David Curley at the White House, thank you very much. For much more on all of this, let's bring in ABC's Cokie Roberts and Matt Dowd. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. We're glad to see you there, Dan and Paula.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me start with you, Koki. Some defenders of this video are saying, look, this was clearly a joke and self-important journalists are taking it too seriously. What's your take?
You know, I'd prefer not to talk about the president's tweets at all. I think that he's trying to distract us with sort of bright, shiny objects from his failed programs. But the fact is that this one we really do have to talk about. It is appalling. First of all, I didn't know about the original WWE thing, which is pretty appalling in itself. But, you know, we are in a time when somebody goes to a ball field and shoots people just because they're Republicans, not an individual as assassins normally did, but just because they're Republicans. We could easily be at a time where somebody decides to shoot people just because they're journalists, and that's really scary.
Matt, aren't we watching a familiar ritual play out here? The president does or says something provocative, and establishment media voices voice their outrage, and meanwhile, the president's base either shrugs it off or cheers him on. Is this any different to your mind?
Well, you're right. The president continues to do things that are very provocative and beneath the office. I mean, I think it has had a dramatic effect since Inauguration Day. If you think about the president, he got 46% of the vote. Today, his job approval rating is 37%, which means there's been a deterioration of people that support him. But more importantly, for the president politically, almost 50% of the country now strongly disapproves of this president, and much of that rise has been his own self-inflicted wounds over the course of his presidency.
Koki.
Now, of course, a huge part of the country also disapproves of the media, and and he has been very successful in ginning that up.
Now, you said before that it's a bright, shiny object to distract us. Do you think that you see a real strategy here?
Yes, I absolutely do. The president tweets and we talk about it, instead of talking about the fact that health care can't get through, that the tax reform isn't happening, and that the president is going off to this G20 summit where he is going to meet with Vladimir Putin. And what about Russia and Russia's influence on our election? We're not talking about those things. We're talking about the president's tweets.
Well, let's talk about that, Matt. This meeting with Putin coming up in just days. What are the stakes here for President Trump, given all of the ongoing investigations and given the fact, as we pointed out over the weekend here on GMA, that he's said tough things about many of the world's leaders, but not about Putin?
I don't remember the president putting out a WWE video related to Vladimir Putin or attacking Vladimir Putin in the course of this. He's attacked the press, and it's unbelievable, in the course of the 4th of July, more than he's attacked Russia or Vladimir Putin in this. I'll disagree with Koki, which I hesitate to do, on one thing. I think this is a distraction, but just like if somebody swims naked in the river in my backyard, it's a distraction, but doesn't mean it's a strategy. And so, yes, he's distracting this, and yes, there's big issues to face, but this is a guy that has impulse control problems, and it's not somebody that's strategic about this. He does these things, and then everybody else has to clean up the mess.
So somebody has clearly been swimming naked in your backyard, Matt, because I don't know where else you would have pulled that metaphor out of. All right. Thank you very much, Koki and Matt. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We do have one other political note this morning. There are pictures making waves on social media right now. Here they are. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, a prominent Trump ally, seen enjoying a beach that he had just closed to the public. A budget standoff has forced the shutdown of state beaches during the holiday weekend. The governor is seen with his family and friends, but nobody else is there. Later at a news conference, the governor was asked if he had gotten any sun, and he said no. Then these pictures came out, and a spokesman later clarified, saying the governor was on the beach, but he didn't get any sun because he was wearing a hat. Amy?
All right. Well, weather is also making news. Speaking of sunshine and wearing hats. And we have some severe weather that's actually affecting so many people, some dangerous wildfires, and many are still not contained at this hour. Ginger has the very latest on that. Ginger, good morning.
Amy, I want to start with the impressive pictures from Maine over the weekend. You can see this water spout forming over a lake and then becoming one of 4 tornadoes that they saw in Maine. That doubles their annual average number of tornadoes. I want to go ahead and show you what else happened. The damage there, up to 80 miles per hour winds in Oklahoma. Oklahoma. And today, we do have more severe weather threat. You can see along that cold front Ohio, western Pennsylvania, but the bulk of it and the most severe would happen in western Oklahoma and Kansas. Then those wildfires, at least 30 of them burning across the west, many of them in Arizona, one of them forcing evacuations this morning just east of Tucson. Tucson had its hottest June on record. And look at this, as I was flying back from New Zealand, that picture of the Brian Head fire, now more than 60,000 acres burned in Utah. Dan?
Ginger, thank you. She had a big trip to New Zealand. Excited to hear more about that. We're going to move now, though, to Iraq, where U.S.-backed Iraqi forces are winning the battle to retake the major city of Mosul from ISIS in what would be a major blow to that terrorist group. And ABC's Ian Pannell, who has spent years reporting from war zones around the world, joins GMA for the first time from the front lines. Ian.
Dan, as you can probably see, the battle for this city is still raging. But that hasn't stopped Iraqi troops from holding a victory parade this morning. They say they'll recapture the city in just 48 hours. But winning the battle for Mosul and defeating ISIS are two very different things. 3 years since ISIS took over this city, the center of its power in Iraq. Now, finally, victory's at hand. Just 100 or so ISIS fighters left, pinned down in the old city, but fighting to the death. The people of Mosul didn't choose this war, and they've paid a heavy price for it. Hundreds, possibly thousands killed, countless wounded, and made homeless. We watched dozens escape from ISIS, limping to safety, and an uncertain future. Even so, Iraqi troops held a victory parade today. The government's planning a week of celebrations. And the president's also touting victory, saying there's new urgency in the fight.
But I want to tell you, ISIS, it's a whole different ballgame, folks. They're going fast.
However, once the militants are driven out of here, the United States and its allies still face potential threats from ISIS. Don't forget, the militants have created franchises in other countries, and they've managed to agitate and recruit online, inspiring the kind of attacks we've seen from San Bernardino to London. Amy.
All right, Ian, thank you. And now to that fatal road rage incident that happened in Pennsylvania. It left a teenage girl dead, and the suspect is now behind bars after turning himself in. ABC's Diane Macedo is here with those details. Good morning, Diane.
Amy, good morning. Bianca Roberson's family was in tears as prosecutors announced the man accused of killing her is behind bars. Now, Roberson was preparing for her freshman year at college when police say she was gunned down over a traffic merge. And prosecutors now say this was calculated.
The alleged road rage killer accused of gunning down a teenager on a highway outside Philadelphia is behind bars.
This is the story of a savage and senseless murder.
A massive 3-day manhunt for 18-year-old Bianca Roberson's killer came to an end early Sunday morning when authorities say 28-year-old David Desper turned himself in and was charged with first-degree murder.
Somebody didn't want her to merge into a lane of traffic, and because of that, a young woman is dead today.
This picture from a highway traffic camera shows Bianca Roberson's car and a red pickup truck jockeying for position as they merged in traffic. That's when police say Desper took out his handgun and shot the recent high school graduate in the head. Investigators released video surveillance collected from homes and businesses nearby. It shows a red truck driving away from the scene. Police say they located that truck after Desper surrendered. They also searched the suspect's home, where they discovered the handgun allegedly used to kill Roberson.
Now, police say this is not a hate crime, simply an act of road rage. Desper is now being held without bail. As for the family, Dan, they say the arrest hasn't eased their pain. Bianca was just days away from attending her college orientation.
What a disaster for that family. Diane Macedo, thank you very much. We're going to turn now to Colorado, where a flight landing at Denver's airport erupted in flames. All of the passengers got out safely. But now, of course, there are questions about what caused this fire. And ABC's Gio Benitez is right here with the story. Gio, good morning to you.
Dan, good morning. The fire starting just as this commercial jet landed on the tarmac, causing chaos and panic. And when you see this video, it's simply incredible that nobody was hurt. Take a look at this frightening video. Flames shooting out of a commercial jet's engine Sunday.
5869, we're observing flames from here. Tower 4751, we got a CRJ on fire.
Oh my God, there is actually a fire.
Ryan Syed, one of the 59 passengers forced to file onto the tarmac.
People towards the back of the plane were urging others to, move more quickly, keep moving.
The United Express flight operated by SkyWest from Aspen had just landed in Denver when the engine seen here caught fire.
It's not a break fire at all. He's dumping fire out of the, looks like the APU compartment of the engine.
One woman snapping this photo moments after being evacuated with her young family. The 6 passengers gazing at the scene as firefighters rush in, dousing the flames. And SkyWest telling us this morning all of those passengers deplaned safely, thank goodness, but no doubt the investigation is just beginning into what caused that fire in the first place. Dan, Amy?
Not what you want when you take a trip. Gio, thank you very much.
Thanks, Gio. Now to those bear attacks in Alaska, 6 of them in just the past 2 weeks, including one where this young boy single-handedly saved his family from a charging bear. ABC's Matt Gutman has those details for us. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Amy. And 2 of those attacks you just mentioned have been deadly. That boy, just 12 years old, may have saved his family and himself from adding to that statistic as the brown bear barreled through 2 of Elliot Clark's family members. Elliot was face to snout with the bear, but the kid stopped the bear with his shotgun. This morning, 12-year-old Elliot Clark is being called a hero for rescuing his family from a heart-stopping attack by an enormous brown bear. Clark and his family were on a fishing trip outside Juneau 2 weeks ago when the massive beast charged, slamming into his uncle and grandfather, the preteen's fight or flight instincts kicking in, firing his shotgun at the animal, wounding it, he and his uncle then killing it. And last week in Anchorage, another young boy got a rude and terrifying awakening.
Sounds like almost like a cannon burst through and hit like straight past my ear.
A black bear crashing through 11-year-old Zach Landis's window in the middle of the night.
I shot up, I scream, I turn on my light, and I run.
His mom says despite sleeping just below the shattered window, Zach survived without a scratch, though the wild intruder did leave behind these deep gouges in his bedroom wall. These clashes with nature, part of what appears to be a spike in bear encounters across Alaska. 6 just in the past 2 weeks, 2 of those attacks deadly, including one in which a 16-year-old boy was killed by a bear while running in a popular race.
He said there's a bear, and from the sounds on the phone, it appeared that an attack was taking place right then.
Now, 2 fatalities in 2 weeks is incredibly unusual. There have been only 6 fatalities in the previous 130 years. So what's going on? Wildlife officials say it could be a combination of increasing human outdoor activity in Alaska, higher population in Alaska, coupled with mild winters there, which have apparently increased the bear population. So more bears, more people, unfortunately, equals more interactions. Amy.
All right, Matt, thanks so much. I just got back from Alaska, and that's what everyone was talking about. We did a couple excursions in the woods. Everyone had bear spray with them and strict instructions to follow just to avoid any possible conflict. But it's scary out there sometimes.
Beautiful there, but you got to be careful. Let's get it over to Ginger yet again. Take a look at the national forecast. Hey, Ginger.
Hey there, Dan. Yeah, we thought why not, because a lot of people still traveling, and especially if you're hitting the roads, I-95 up along through the southeast, that's a place that could be wet as you go through your 4th of July itself, along 40 and then up there just into parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin along 80. So just something to look forward to, or not. All right, that's the big picture. We've got your local forecast in 30 seconds. First, though, the Select Cities brought to you by Walmart.
And a very good morning, meteorologist Brian Vandergraff. Plenty of sunshine today, but warm temperatures, low 90s. We'll definitely have a bit of heat, but humidity remains in check. Tonight, mid-70s tomorrow. Watching the 4th of July. Could be a couple scattered afternoon and evening storms, so have to keep an eye on that for impacts to your 4th of July celebrations and fireworks. May have to duck inside. It's not the best forecast for it, but it's not everybody. 40% chance. Notice as we head through Wednesday, Thursday, very isolated storm chances. By the weekend, the heat finally subsides Saturday, Sunday.
Nearly skiing on the 4th of July. That's what they were doing at Squaw Valley. Look at this. Or just south Tahoe. Wow. Yeah.
That doesn't look so bad.
I know. I'm going to have that forecast and yours for the 4th of July coming up.
All right. Can't wait, Ginger. Thank you. Coming up next here on GMA, the suspect in the disappearance of a college student, the stunning evidence investigators found on his phone that ultimately led to his arrest.
And the promoter of that luxury, or supposedly luxury, concert festival debacle, now facing 20 years in prison. Why he's under arrest.
Fitting into my skinny jeans again? That's cool. Feeling